Hey, so I just wanted to give a disclaimer for this video. This is me and Anek. We're talking about um, a lot of the coaching changes that have happened this year in the past week, and then we're also talking about um, the lineups for Euros. However, if you don't know this about me, I'm on the road a lot, and I'm in Brazil right now, and my Wi-Fi has just been terrible the past week. So there's certain points of the episode where the Wi-Fi like comes in and out, and then on top of that, like at the end, it just completely ends. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna post this, just like there's gonna be a little bit of like scratches and a little bit of like messed up stuff, and then tomorrow we're gonna post part two. We're gonna finish our deep dive into the Euros. So. Sorry about that, but hopefully this Wi-Fi gets fixed and we can give you the great content you're coming here for. So with that, here's the episode. So I'm surprised about that because the reason why we didn't record yesterday was because the deck was hungover from celebrating the cup victory, and I'm surprised by that. I was gonna text you, but I didn't even want to like have it on our text thread. I just wanted to be in a conversation. So you're
Sure.
happy about the cup win?
Oh yeah, not just the fact that we won, the way we won, the way we played them off the park for most of that game and suffocated the midfield. Like Tottenham did it a couple of weeks ago when Son should have scored, obviously, what should have been an equalizer. They ended up losing the game anyway.
Yeah,
But our ways to stifle this Man City team and
yeah.
Pep Guardiola, at least a one-off game, where the teams can do it over a 38 game season is a different story. But in a one-off
Well,
cup final, especially the FA Cup, that's the magic of the cup. There's always the underdog that
so
can
I
always
I
pull it
I,
off. So,
I don't want to shit on Man U for this, but like I mean you do know that like Man City didn't really show up. Like
yeah,
what
they never
you
came out
know,
second gear. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
but we can't control that. We can only do what we can do, which
100%.
is
But like the reason why I
although
thought you'd be upset is because this kind of means that Ted Hog stays for another year, right?
I hope he does. I want him to. I
Oh,
don't think
okay.
there's a better option out there for me. Ten Hag. This just proves that Ten Hag should get another year at least. Thing is he's on a 3 year contract. You've
Yeah,
given him two. What's wrong with giving another year under this in your structure? These players clearly play for him.
yeah.
The way they, oh God, the performances on Saturday you couldn't believe from every single one, from Amrabat, from whoever was there. They knew their job. Obviously against a City team that didn't turn up, but again, we could get rolled over from a City team that doesn't turn up anyway. So
Yeah. Oh,
the
also,
fact
like,
that you
I didn't want to like start out with that because, like, again, you're right. You can't control that, and like, it's still a win.
yeah,
It's like, yeah. I mean, it's not the Champions League final, but you're not celebrating as if it is. So,
no,
like,
no,
I think Cup
it's
final.
nice. Yeah, it's
Um,
nice to get a trophy in the bag. It's not the big cups. Usually for everyone tells me you refer to them as Mickey Mouse cups. Yeah, definitely the Carabao Cup's Mickey Mouse. FA Cup's
yeah.
not as big as we touched on in our last episode, but
Well,
it's
you
still a
get
cup.
Europa. You get Europa for
Yeah.
this. Also,
Well,
doesn't Chelsea get knocked out of Europa or something?
yeah. So Chelsea, as it stands at the moment, Chelsea are now in the Conference League because we've taken that spot because we won the FA Cup. So, but we might be in the Conference League as well because Ineos own Nice and Man United. So if their controlling share goes above 30%, which it might do this year, we could be forced to drop out of the Europa League. But
Oh, because of the multi club.
yeah, I feel like
I
that's something they can manage. They'll know
Well,
their way
plus you
around.
want Man U in the Europa League. Like, there's no like, why would you want Nice over?
So the reason it works out is because Nice finished higher in their league standings than we did. I think Nice definitely finished higher than eighth. So for them, it's like
You're gonna sell
they
so many more jerseys from Man U than Nice. Like, who
yeah,
cares about
yeah.
Nice?
It's unfortunately just the UEFA bylaws, but again, they must be aware of this. All they have to do is just sort of taper off that investment for another year or so.
Yeah,
Don't let it go about that 30% threshold because
I
obviously they want
do
to fix the
love
stadium.
when they play Brest because it's always nice Brest. So
Fair enough.
speaking of managers, one thing we were texting about was uh the two, I think, kind of inexplicable signings that happened over the past week. So we got company, or is it company? Like, how do you pronounce it? It's company, right?
Vincent Company, yeah, Vincent
Yeah,
Company works.
company to Bayern Munich, and then we got
Yeah,
Mariska to
Chelsea.
Chelsea. And like, so to start off with, I remember when we were talking about this like a week ago, when we were talking about like Man U firing Ten Hag. One of your arguments, which I think is a correct argument, is like, who do we have? Like, well, like who's out there, right?
He's out
Because
there.
like, it's got to a point where you can't fire a manager at the end of the season anymore because all of the hiring starts to happen in February through April now. So like,
Yeah.
if you wait until April, you're kind of screwed, which is where like Bayern and Chelsea are. Like, do you think that these signings are secretly brilliant, or do you think they're just stupid?
I think the first thing we have to underline is the importance and the value of Pep Guardiola. I know you're not a Pep fan, but
Yeah.
these two coming on board, Company being an ex-player, Maresca being an ex-coach of Pep's, like his influence is just showing you it's massive now. The fact that Bayern Munich have gone for Company. With Bayern, I think it's a little bit of desperation as well because they had their first choice in Xabi Alonso. Then there was a few other options. They even wanted Tuchel to stay. They tried talking him out of it. That's always a sign of, okay, maybe we rush things and the grass isn't always greener. I
Yeah.
think in the last 3 or 4 years, Bayern haven't really been Bayern. They've almost been run like almost like a Man United. They changed, a lot of their higher ups a couple of years ago. Last year, I think Oliver Kahn and Hassan's, I'm gonna butcher his name, Salihamidzic or something like that. They
Yeah.
both left their roles last year, so it's been a lot of upheaval for a club like Bayern, who generally run, pretty standard. It's always ex players. They're very efficient. They almost bully teams when it comes into the transfer market or managers. They just have their way with the opposition.
I mean,
But they've been one kind of
they got
sorry.
Mane from us 2 years ago. Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and not for too expensive either. It didn't work out proper good signing because he had injury issues. But you're talking about a Bayern now that have bought in Eric Dyer in January. They've got Kane, which is a great signing. But it's just you're watching the way they're being run and some of the signings they've made recently. You're just thinking, oh, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. They were so well run. It's like the most least German thing I've seen from them in a long time, where they're almost being run like an English club run by Americans or something, a bit like a
yeah.
United or a Chelsea. So with Bayern, I think it's a little bit of it could work out to be a masterstroke. Company might. He's a good manager. He only plays a certain way, which obviously his Burnley team showed. Worked for them in the Championship, record number of goals, killing it. But the step up to Premier League just proved too big. And like you mentioned on the text message the other day, is it a case of now, oh, this manager has this the correct identity, the Pep identity? So instead of sticking with the team you got relegated with or having maybe a different job that's not on the same level, you're now promoted to
Yeah.
head of one of the elite European clubs. So
I mean, for the managers themselves, like I would have obviously said yes. Like I would much
yeah,
rather like coach, Bayern Munich than a relegated Burnley. But like I just looked it up. Bayern Munich has had 5 managers in the past 7 years since
a lot of
Carlo
people.
left.
It's a
Like
lot
this,
of up.
it's
Yeah,
incredible amount of upheaval, and the big problem is that it's really different than let's say Real Madrid or like even putting Real Madrid to the side, Barcelona, where Barcelona they have different managers, but all the managers play the same style. So even if you have a lot of managerial upheaval, it's all just like slight differences on the same
yeah.
style. If you look at Nagelsmann and Thomas Tuchel, like they are like completely polar opposites in terms
Yeah.
of their playing style, and you have the same players. So like one year these players have to play one way. The next year they have to play a different way. You can't really allow them to develop one singular identity. And then at the same point, like one thing that's like critical that people don't really think think enough about is how lineups are like lineups are built for a specific coach and a specific style, right? So like Julian Nagelsmann having a starting 11 is not going to perform at the same level as Thomas Tuchel with that same starting 11.
Different
And
ideas.
that's nothing to do with competency. It's just certain players play a certain style better than other players. And is Bayern becoming like a Mickey Mouse club? Like, is Bayern Leverkusen going to become like the new head of Germany?
So no, I think Bayern are just so well run. They'll never be Mickey Mouse. For them, finishing third and trophyless has been the biggest disaster in their recent history, and that tells you everything about the stature of the club. I think starting off with the Nagelsmann decision, they've just it's been a bit of a tailspin. Um, it's a double-edged sword. So when you have like ex-players and like people that know the club inside out, they have certain ideas. It's great because you have an understanding. But then you can also have it this way with Bayern, where they're quick to pull the trigger. Sometimes, with Julian Nagelsmann, it didn't make any sense. Tuchel, even less sense what was going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes egos just, we're all human. Egos just get in the way in the boardroom and at whatever level. And you have these top tier managers and, hierarchies going back and forth. And now you're in a position where you went from a young German coach, very exciting, to a Champions League proven winner and guy that can beat Pep, to a guy that got relegated with Burnley now in the space of 2 years, 2.5 years. So
Like
it's like,
one question with Tuchel is like, does Tuchel understand what type of coach he is, because I remember, well, first of all, like taking over after Nagelsmann, you have to know that it's a completely different lineup than like what's built for you. And then two, like I remember when he took over Chelsea and he signed Lukaku, it was like this is the absolute worst striking signing for you. And I remember like everyone defended Lukaku and they're like,
Yeah,
he's a
yeah,
great counterattacking striker. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm faster than him. like the number one thing for a counterattacking striker is speed. Why would
he
you
does
not
have
get a
speed.
guy?
No, no. I think sometimes with players they don't look athletic. So even like Harry Kane doesn't look like he can do what Harry Kane can do from the way they built and perhaps the way they move. Lukaku, you know, he was at United. He was he can play that counter-attacking style. Lukaku does have that in him. Lukaku at that time, I think, again, you know, who knows what's going through a player in his head, but he had a lot of big transfers from um, Everton to United for big money, and then United after a year and a half, and Ole wanted to play different football to Jose. He gets shipped off to Inter, wins a league title at Inter, and enjoys his time there.
Yeah.
Inter at the Serie A, they need the money. Chelsea coming with an absolute silly offer, and he's a boyhood Chelsea fan. He was with them. Drogba's his idol. He goes back to Chelsea for not more big money. So it's just again, it was a series of just a lot of big transfers, big decisions in a short space of time. I think kind of ruined his reputation and his. You have to be settled. You know what I mean? You can't. Some players can move every year. Fair enough. Like players like
Yeah.
this, like Nicholas Anelka holds the record for like the most transfers in history. He
Yeah.
just couldn't stop anywhere, whether it was his fault, or the club, or whatever. He every 6 months, every year, he would have a transfer. He would have to move. He was
Balotelli.
very, Nicholas Anelka. He would just say he was
Oh no, no,
super self.
I'm saying Balotelli too.
Oh,
Like,
Balotelli was a troublemaker. Everyone kind of knew what he was like.
yeah.
Lighting up fireworks in your own kitchen and throwing darts at youth players. You know,
Yeah. I do
it's
want to push back on Lukaku being fast though, because like I just looked up their FIFA 2021 stats. I know like FIFA's not the end all be all for stats, like obviously, but they are pretty good.
Oh no,
So
they get something. Jack Grealish, he's been robbed on FIFA a few times for pace and things like that. What do they give him? What did FIFA give him?
so they gave him, this is again 2021. They gave him 82 pace. So that's a sprint speed of 85 and an acceleration of 78 versus Timo Werner, acceleration of 98, a sprint speed of 94. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I don't think that their striker was their problem when it came to counterattacking. I think I mean, I'm obviously saying it as a joke that Tuchel doesn't know what type of coach he is because he obviously knows way more about football. He's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. It's just he puts himself in a lot of these really inexplicable situations. Where do you think is his next spot? Like Italy?
It's a great question. If it's not United, which again I want Ten Hag to stay, but if they do sack him, Tuchel's the only one that can come in. Really, if you ask me, he can play with those kind of speed players we have, as you mentioned, Rashford, some of these others.
Do
I don't
you
know.
think he has too much of a tie to Chelsea? Because he
No, no,
wanted
no, no,
to
no,
them?
no, 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 no.
Okay,
I mean, Jose was Mr. Chelsea, and he's coming
that's true.
United. He's managed Spurs for God's sake. So there's no the days of the managers not doing, doing those big moves between the clubs. That's over now. I think a manager, the money's just so different, and the way the system is now. Any
Yeah.
manager, any club. There are some exceptions. I don't see like a Xabi Alonso coming to United because A, why would he? B, his connection to Liverpool. Some rivalries are thicker than others. So United,
Yeah.
Liverpool, let alone players. I don't see assistant coaches, let alone managers going in between and trying to help out
Klopp
the
said he's never going to coach within England again, which I'm really happy about.
because he's had such a magical time at Liverpool. He's that guy. I would believe
Yeah.
him. Like he
Yeah.
may like I think there was a story that he might become president of Dortmund in a year or two. So he might just go to
He
that
did bring
next
them to
level.
the Champions League final. So
Yeah. And so that would be a great move for him. He's made obviously you want to see him manage as much as possible, but these new managers are not built like the old ones where they'll do a 20, 30 year shift. It's so
yeah.
intense for these days, a good 10, 12-year career. Live your life, move on to something else.
You know where Stuttgart is? Because he's from Stuttgart. Sorry, I'm just pulling up a lot of facts right now on the
Yeah,
computer.
no, he's not. Stuttgart actually finished second this year. They have a good young coach on them as well. Bayern actually
Who?
finished Stuttgart, the football team that
Yeah.
you're talking about. They finished second this year in the Bundesliga. Bayern ended up finishing third overall. So they've had a good year as well. They're back in Champions League. I
Yeah.
remember last year in Champions League was like 2008. They had a solid squad back then.
Oh no, Klopp is from Stuttgart, so I was like
I mean,
maybe
oh,
like if he's from Dortmund, that would make a lot more sense. But Stuttgart's
yeah.
on the opposite side of Germany. I think I hate Germany, so I try not to spend a lot of time thinking about Germany. So,
Tuchel, I don't know. Let's see. It might be an international job after the
yeah,
Euro. See how it pans out for him. But I think Hansi Flick is about to be announced for Barcelona tomorrow. Xavi's now available. They did him dirty as well. He had to pay his own. He left the year's worth of wages on the table for them so they can use it because obviously they
Yeah.
had their financial trouble. So class
I,
act by Chelsea.
I mean, like, so putting my pet hatred aside, because most of that was just fueled by the EPL title. Like, I'll probably zag in the opposite direction. Like, I totally get hiring an assistant coach from an incredibly successful manager, but like Maresca, so his
Right.
CV is he managed
I'll leave that.
Manchester City EDS from 2020 to 2021, Parma for a
Yeah.
year, and then Leicester City and got relegated. So it's like you'd expect him to have a little bit of a bigger resume, right, before getting the job at Chelsea.
So the whispers coming out from Chelsea, or what they're saying roughly, is that they need a young manager that's aligned with the board's thinking of how they're going to play, and it needs to be because again, this pep football, like there's only one way to do it. I don't think Todd and those guys appreciate Pochettino having his own ideas, having the pedigree. Back again, we all good?
Yeah, no. So my internet in this Airbnb has just been going terribly for the past week. So I think
Oh, okay.
the host is supposed to like fix it tomorrow. So hopefully he does.
Sure.
I feel bad leaving a bad review, but like I kind of want to because it's like you advertise good internet. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, um, so you were just talking about
Yeah.
Pochettino.
Yeah. So Pochettino have been I think what they're looking for is a kind of a yes man, but a yes man sort of project that they want. So they want, total control of the football. They want to dominate games. I think honestly, the more and more you look at it, these guys are just this American lot that are running Chelsea. To the rest of us, it's really funny. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be really concerned because they seem to want to do the right thing, but they're picking all the wrong ways to go about it. Like
Yeah,
Maresca, he might do a good job. It depends the kind of skill he has. I heard they're looking for five new players to come in. They want to get another centre back. I don't know why they have so many young centre backs. They're looking at an actual central striker, which they need, maybe another winger to replace Sterling. So it's the right kind of ideas here and there. They'll have money to spend, of course. The question is, will Maresca be given that time to play that pep football and make the teams? I don't know what his coaching's like. He done all right with Leicester, but then so did Company last year in the Championship and came up with a record number of goals scored, etc. So let's see. It's a big jump. It's a big jump to get rid of Pochettino, especially when the players started playing for him. Like they won their 5 out of their last 6. They were looking good. It's a young team. They clearly love their boss because all the messages that came out on X afterwards. Um, he has to win over these players, Maresca,
yeah.
and then he has to sort of make sure the board is on his. If he has a rough start, God forbid, if he loses the first few games of the season or doesn't win, let's say out of the first 6 games, he only wins 1 or 2, draws a bunch, maybe loses one. Pressure's immediately on him. And this Chelsea board, they're quick, man. Like letting Tuchel go after 6 games where he was sitting third as well
And
against
he
the
just
Liverpool
won the
City,
Champions
prime
League.
Liverpool City makes no sense.
They
It's
let him
insane,
just
honestly.
won
You
the
flip the
Champions League.
script.
Yeah, I mean, like and this is where like
Script.
I personally I disagree about Ten Hag because like I do think he's not a great coach, but like I do agree with the mentality of just like look, just let him cook, let him develop this thing. I think you're right that like you need to find a coach, give him the keys, and give him leeway to make the changes
Yeah.
necessary in the organization and the culture in order to make a difference. Again, like I don't think Ten Hag is going to make those changes, but I think you're right with the sentiment of you need to give them time and like bringing in a weak-minded coach that you can just control like that just seems like the exact worst thing to do. Like it's like how do
So
you manage that situation?
the problem at United over the last 10 years, everyone talks about, accountants running, making football decisions. So we have no football structure. So no clear vision. Like Liverpool have a clear vision, City have a clear vision. Even rightly or wrongly, they kind of know what they want to do. Everyone has a clear vision. So United had no clear vision. Right, let's just grab these managers. Let's try and buy all these superstar players. So the first manager comes in, gets a year and a half, gets sacked. Now he's bought a bunch of players in. New guys come in. These aren't his players. Same thing. He's brought his own people in, wanting to play the right way. He gets sacked. So every 18 months, 2 years, you're changing managers. You're getting these influx, mishmash of players coming in that don't belong to any one style or identity.
Yeah,
And then you've got what Ten Hag walks into, which is players from 3 to 4 different managers over the course of 6 years. He's brought his own people in, rightly or wrongly as well.
yeah.
And some have been absolutely amazing. Some have been terrible. So
Entity.
now I think Keep Ten Hag into them. See up, yeah, for Anthony. For there's a whole bunch you could put there. Jury's still out on Onana. He's making big mistakes. Even that goal, it should have been 2-0, not 2-1. So Ten Hag coming in, bought his own mishmash. Now you've got like 4 managers worth of players all just kind of sitting there, a lot of dead wood. No clear identity, not sure what's going on. A crazy injury list. So now, hopefully, if they give Ten Hag another year, with under Ineos, a clear definition of the type of player, the type of profile of player, this type of style we want to play, he gets to pick and choose the players, but under that sort, he doesn't get final say of like, I definitely want Anthony. No, Anthony, yeah, he does this and this good, but what's his profile like? What's his attitude like? Can he adapt? So yeah. I think that's where it's going to be interesting if he stays. The fact that he now no longer has final say on all the transfers. He'll give a list of players he wants to the sporting director. They'll then decide out of the 6 players, for example, let's see, only 3 really fit our identity, what we're going for. Those are 3 we're going for. Come back for the other 3, see what else we can find.
Yeah.
So I think that structure, a year or 2, that could potentially work because he is a top tier coach. He's proven that he can, on his day, he can beat anyone, and that's the first step.
And managers a lot of time will just spend stupid money. Like, one thing that people talk a lot about, especially in the NBA, more so than any other sport, but person in every sport, is how like if you're an agent and your player like is a free agent, like the team you want to go to is the team that he had his best game against, because like that manager is only going to think about how he destroyed his own team and never think about like the larger body of work. And I think that that's why you need a sporting director. And I think you're right. If they start working together a lot more and start like understanding
as it should
what Ten Hag brings in and what the sporting director needs to put him on a leash. The problem with Liverpool, I was actually talking to my friend about this, is that Liverpool are the complete opposite. Yeah. Where like we don't fall in love with players at all. And that causes us to miss out on a lot of really good players. Like we could have had Jude Bellingham and Mbappe if we just were a little bit more impulsive. Because when Mbappe was going from Monaco to PSG, he literally like PSG just outbid us by a few $1 million. And like Liverpool has this idea of like, we know what the player's worth. We're not paying a penny over, which is like the Boston, the New England Patriots ideology. But sometimes you have to go over. Like sometimes you just have to listen to your heart a little bit. Yeah. Jude Bellingham 2 years ago, we could have had him for 60 million. And we were like, we'll wait. And then it was 100 million, and then it was 130 million. It's like you just lost out on
For now, I think he definitely ends up in the Premier League in the next 5 years or so. I think he does his shift at Real Madrid and then he comes back to the league. For me, the Liverpool system works because you have it's all data driven as well. So it's brilliant. You have all the numbers over the players, almost that Moneyball type of thing done. But you have, Michael Edwards, Julian Ward, proven best in class at what they do in terms of the football sporting side of things. Arne Slot, not a big name manager, but I think it'll be easier for him because he'll go in there, he'll know what the remit is from day one. These are the parameters from which I can work. This is what the club's looking for. And if someone who's not been at a club that big, these guys can then guide him. But look, this is how things are done here. Give him sort of that sort of padding in terms of a harsh landing. When Ten Hag came in, other managers coming at United, it was a harsh landing. The fucking directors don't know what they're doing. They're like, you tell us what you want. And the guy's like, I've never had a club this big.
Yeah.
So with Arne Slot, they'll never replace Klopp. Klopp is one of one. But with Arne Slot and with the squad they have and the structure that's now come back in place, I think that Liverpool probably won't win the league, hopefully, but they'll be in and around, same as this year. And top 4 will be like them. Top 4 and a cup will probably be like the main ambition.
I actually really like Arne Slot so far because he has a great move where I think it's an Inter midfielder, Ederson. I think it's smart because what's going to happen is we're going to play Man City, and Ederson, the goalie, is going to see Ederson in the midfield and is going to be like, wait, am I the goalie or am I the midfielder right now? And it's going to be such an existential crisis that we're just going to be able to shoot on him. We're just going to confuse him. You know what I mean? Be like, are you playing for Man City or for Liverpool? You don't know.
That would work if he stays. Apparently, there's a lot of talk he might go this year. Ederson might be leaving Man City.
That's true. Isn't he actually thinking about going to Liverpool? No. Allison, yeah.
That'd be a crazy shift. That would be massive. Apparently, there's interest from Saudi. He hasn't confirmed. There's interest from Saudi. He's only 30 years old. He's still crazy young for a goalkeeper. He could be doing this for another 10 years. The
Yeah.
Man City have this record of like they don't hold players back. If they get a suitable offer, they'll let them go. Bernardo Silva for a couple of years wanted to go. It just a suitable offer never arrived. Gundogan left last year after winning the treble. They never stand in the players' way. They're like, we're Man City, we know what we're doing. If you want to leave that badly, get an offer that's worth our while and happy for you, and you chip and kick rocks. So
What do you think
same kind of
about
mentality.
28-year-old players going to Saudi? It's like I'm all for a 32-year-old, a 33-year-old being like, look, I put in my shift. I'm happy with my career. I want to make insane Saudi money for 3 years so I can retire. Like I understand that. That's I completely agree. But like my question with like the 27 to 30, and a 30-year-old keeper is basically like a 26-year-old midfielder. Like if you're still in the prime of your career, like we saw this with Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson, who still has a few years left, was like, I'm gonna go to Saudi. He goes to Saudi and he's just like, I hate it here. Nobody cares about football. Like, do you feel that like players are gonna start regretting going to Saudi Arabia for that reason?
I think some already have. Some already made the think. I believe Bobby Firmino's not having a good time out there. Mane's not really clicking like that. I think the only one that's really done amazingly well is probably Cristiano Ronaldo. But hey, because of his stature, he's Ronaldo. Anywhere he goes, he'll be that guy, the superstar. The whole team will listen to him. He's 37, 38, so he's much further down the line of his career as well. And he's on a different deal than the rest of these guys. He's like an ambassador for the next World Cup or the next like Olympics. Like they're gonna make it worth his while. His face will be everywhere, so it kind of strokes his ego as well. It's not just a football decision.
Yeah,
I think it's criminal for players like Edison to right now. You have so much to offer. I'll be happy to see the back of him. Don't get me wrong. Like
yeah,
him not being at City will be a massive. That's things like that. Are the only things that will stop City from domination. If you ask me, I
yeah.
feel like football just works in a funny way. Like City could win the next. City probably favorites for the league next year as well. But when a player like Edison comes out of nowhere and says, actually, I think I've had enough. 30 years old, I'm ready to go. You're like, this is that moment. Teams like Arsenal, teams like Liverpool, this is your chance. If you do well in the summer and start the season well, you might catch City slips. The year you lot won the league, you obviously were way ahead of City at the time. The points, they had bad injuries, but I remember Leroy Sané got injured in the Community Shield game against you lot. They lost that game, I believe, to you lot as well. But the bigger concern was Leroy Sané getting injured because the year before he was the one that difference maker that beat Liverpool for City. So when
Yeah.
he was missing for a lot of that campaign, they didn't have like a Jack Grealish on in the fold to sort of help out. City started drawing and dropping a lot more points, and you guys were just a machine at that point and just carried on
But
and made
then
it not competitive. But when you
this
lose a
year,
keeper like Edison,
Holland
I mean,
and
who
this year Holland and De Bruyne were both out for like 3 months, and they still won the fucking
yeah,
league.
again, that's where other players stepped up. Phil Foden had the season of his life. Edison missed a few games with injury as well. So they definitely had this. Stefan Ortega is a great keeper. Taking Saturday out of it, he's always been a solid keeper. But is he the kind of keeper that makes that kind of ridiculous save like Alisson and Edison can in the middle of a game, especially against each other? That's where it's that marginal difference. That's where the leagues come to these days. I mean, look at
Yeah,
Arsenal. They're undefeated against Man City and they still lost out on the title. So
yeah,
some small marginal plays where you have to sort of be able to turn up. But
yeah,
Edison going will probably be good for the league. I hate to see him go to Saudi. I'd rather he goes somewhere else in Europe or somewhere where he can really be appreciated and enjoy his football. But
yeah,
if he's getting a killer paycheck, who are we to say anything if he wants to enjoy him? He's won everything at City. There's nothing else for him to do, literally,
yeah.
other than win smaller UEFA competitions, which isn't going to happen. So
Yeah, that's the thing is that like again like I'm always happy when players get paid. Like I'm never like upset about it, but like I
yeah,
feel like if you still have like few years of top football, like the competitor in you, I feel like a lot of the time should still want that top level competition. And I mean with Cristiano Ronaldo, as you said, like he's 38. Like he like I, I'm not trying to badmouth Cristiano Ronaldo here, but like Saudi Arabia is really like at the level that he's at right now. Like we saw this with Man United. Like he just wasn't able to play, right? Like,
yeah,
um,
the same style, yeah, yeah. So I think with Jordan Henderson, that's another example where Henderson literally went to Saudi because he wasn't going to get the game time at Liverpool. Klopp kind of took him to the side and was like, look, we're trying to revamp midfield. You're probably not. And ironically, he went to Saudi to try and get that game time to stay relevant for England at the Euros. Unfortunately, it backfired. He's been injured for the last couple of months as well. So he's at Ajax now. He's been doing okay. He's not really been the same player. He's kind of lost his legs a bit, but he didn't see a penny of that crazy contract he was on. Like he didn't
yeah,
get any of the money for that. So it was kind of like a lose-lose. The LGBTQ plus community went against him because of the whole like rights in Saudi and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't fully agree with it. Like he was a big supporter of him, and he still probably is. But if he wants to go to Saudi, make a bit of cash, that's his job at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Like
Plus, like
that's his best.
if you want to start divesting from the Middle East, especially in Europe, it's like the entire Europe is
Yeah,
by the Middle East. So like let's chill out a little bit. So that's actually a perfect segue because I wanted to talk about Euro lineups. Although but before you do, I'm really happy with that thing by Klopp because he like our midfield this year was really good. And I'm really happy that he was willing to pull that trigger, not just with Jordan Henderson, but with Thiago Alcantara and just like the rest of them, and just say, look, this is Gravenbach, this is Endo, like McAllister, and like it was a tough
McAllister
call.
grabbing back Sabots, like that's a absolutely fantastic midfield three. None of them are like out and out, especially I don't think McAllister's played there more recently, but he's not an out and out CDM. But
Yeah,
Endo's done a good job. He's papered over the cracks. You guys go out and get a solid CDM. Like if Moises, I know Caicedo had a bit of a flat year this year, but when he was linked to Liverpool that transfer deadline day and it was 105 million or something, I'm thinking, oh my god, if they get Caicedo,
I
they're going to
never
run away with the
understood
league.
why those guys went to Chelsea. I never understood like what like it made no sense.
Chelsea for that
What?
one apparently. So for the Caicedo one, Chelsea were in talks since January. So he just felt a certain amount of loyalty towards them. Like they've been in for me the longest.
Yeah,
Liverpool kind of came on the 11th hour, which is normally out of character for them. They just came 11th hour, like 105 million. Wham, let's go. And they were like, Brighton agreed. Brighton, like, yeah, they have good relations with Liverpool. Like, yeah, screw it, let's go.
yeah,
Caicedo's the one that was like, nope, wait for Chelsea to come back. They will offer more. I want to go there. Probably a silly decision now in hindsight. Let's see how that pans out. But players like Romeo Lavia, these other guys that Liverpool were linked with, I don't know why. And he's been injured all year. I think he's played 57 minutes the whole season, and he's had a
yeah,
flop. He's been a flop at Chelsea. So it's like those ones are much stranger. The Caicedo one, fair enough. Chelsea were in for him a lot longer, and he was a Chelsea fan growing up. There's a picture of him with a Chelsea shirt on. But Romeo Lavia, some of these other midfielders, a lot of these defenders that went Badiashile, Axel Disasi, like these were players we were linked with. Like, why is everyone going to that one club? You're not going to get game time, or it's just going to be a mess.
I
Like,
mean, even if you do get
you
game
don't.
time, it's just gonna hurt you. Speaking of which, perfect transition.
Yeah.
I was looking up while you know while I was waiting for you to get on the 10 best players left out of each national squad. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. If
I
you
know
can
Belgium.
justify. So let's start with the Lions because that's your team. I'm just gonna go through them and then we can talk about them. So Marcus Rashford, Reece James, Ben Chilwell,
Yeah.
Raheem Sterling,
Yep.
Dominic Solanke, which I don't think is a big one, and then Jordan Henderson and
I
Jaden.
think that's a. I
So
think Rashford deserves to be out. Yep,
I think
deserves to be out.
Sterling.
Sancho as well. And
I think Sterling
yeah,
does too.
Sterling has to be out. He's not been the form guy. No,
Yeah. What do you think about
as in he should be in or should be out.
I think Sterling should be in, man. I mean, I know that like Chelsea aren't playing well and like he wasn't playing well on Chelsea, but he is like he's a top winger, man. Like I know he runs like a girl, but he's one of the fastest players in football.
Compare what we have compared to him. I mean, the fact that there's no way Sterling gets in ahead of Rashford, and Rashford's had an absolute stinker as well. I was very happy. Both brave calls, especially the Rashford one. I was like, good on him. Even though, as a United fan, you want to see Rashford. I'm not hating on Rashford, but he didn't earn it on merit. So good on Southgate for having the balls to actually, pick the young. Success in 2018. He kind of went away from it in the Euros and like the last World Cup. He kind of had his core group of trusted players, but now Calvin Phillips not being in there again, I'm glad because I was worried he was going to Rashford out. Sancho wasn't even in. No chance. Just unlucky with injuries. If he wasn't injured, he would have been in there, I reckon. He's a solid player. Him and Luke Shaw both our left backs not being fully fit is going to be a concern. That's going to be a weak spot for us. Our defense in general will be a weak spot, but our left back, that's where a lot of teams should target us when they play us at the Euros. I think that's going to be an issue.
So you agree with all these
So
stuff?
yeah, I agree with that list. Jordan Henderson, a little bit unlucky. I agree with all of them except one, just because of the injury, but I would have still, if he had the chance to play, I think that's more injury as opposed to Southgate not wanting him. And Henderson, I think, is a little bit unlucky because he's got that leadership mentality in him. it'd be good to have him in and around the group, even if he's not playing every game. But then this is where that ruthless Southgate side's coming. There's some young players coming through that he's given the opportunity. So again, I'm happy with it. I think it was a good decision. It's a good squad. I'm happy with it. Good
What
on him.
about Harvey Elliott not making the squad?
Again, it's just tough. I think the position in which he plays, I think his position at Liverpool as well, it's not really fully defined. Can he play on the wing? Is he more midfield? I think he's had some very bad injuries, the poor guy as well. But he's come back strong. He's hit some bangers. He can pick a pass. He can hit a goal. I think he needs maybe another year or two to develop, really solidify, like find a spot in that Liverpool midfield or that Liverpool starting 11 that's his, owns it. I think then the doors will just fly open for him because he's a different type of player to what we have.
I'm surprised. I thought you'd be critical of a lot more of these calls. All right, let's go on to the next